Listen, I don't like the way that game ended. It was very sloppy, and overall, from a penalty perspective, Miami was a bit undisciplined today, and we will get into that. But when you beat a rival who is ranked on the road, you know that we gotta get hype. So let's go, baby. 4.5. 4.5. FanDuel, the sponsor of today's video, had Miami favored at only 4.5. Well, I say 4.5 my ass, as in an ass whooping, which is what we saw for 90% of the game today. Oh, man, that was an absolutely fun one, man. Listen, I got a little scared towards the end. I got a little bit of squeaky cheeks. I'm not going to lie to you. But at the end of the day, I trust this Hurricanes defense. And you know who I don't trust? Tommy Castellanos. More like Tommy Castellano. Not today. Not with Bryce Fitzgerald out there. Not with Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor. How about Jacoby Thomas today? Oh, they don't got the turnover chain no more, but if they did, it would have had a busy night tonight, man. Really fun performance from the Hurricanes today. Malachi Toney, the boy may be a minor, but he was a major problem for FSU today, man. CJ Daniels, a couple of tutties, was over there taunting the cameras, doing the Seminoles chant. That boy was not nervous. I give FSU credit. They always get a hell of a crowd. They really do. I was able to go one time. I was actually at the game probably 10 years ago now. Was it 10 years ago? Damn. Where it was Malik Rozier to Daryl Langham, game-winning touchdown. It was a fun one. And it was nice to shut up those Seminoles fans because they do show out. And that's exactly what CJ Daniels and Malachi Toney and Carson Beck and the rest of the Miami Hurricanes did tonight, man. You know what FSU's defense and Mark Sanchez has in common? They both got gashed today. Is that joke too soon? Maybe. I do hope Mark Sanchez is okay, just because it sounds like he instigated something, and for these football players, you always got to worry about the CTE stuff. But yeah, weird situation today. Maybe it was too soon for that joke, but I don't care, because when Miami beats a ranked team for the third straight week, when Mario Cristobal gets his first road win versus a ranked team in his Hurricanes coaching tenure, you got to get hype, and that's what I'm going to do today, regardless of the final score only being 6. I don't think the game was actually all that close, because even then, one of the touchdowns the Seminoles had in the fourth quarter, in which, how much did they outscore Miami in that fourth quarter? I don't know if they got here the team box score here on ESPN. Will that show the fourth down? I don't remember. I think it was like 19-0, right? I guess it had to be. The Hurricanes were up 28-3. And yeah, so it would have been 19-0, I believe, in the fourth quarter. Damn. Maybe the Hurricanes only played good for 75% of the game, closer to 75% than 90. But either way, one of FSU's touchdown drives late was like a 19-play drive that took a ton of time off the clock. So it's kind of like the Hurricanes were kind of baiting them into taking these long drives. It's just got a little wacky at the end there, especially with one of the 3 onside kicks. Had a little bit of a bounce to it off a deflection from the Hurricanes, but the Canes were able to get all 3 onside kicks. They were able to eventually force FSU to take all their timeouts. And despite Mario Cristobal, for some reason, not kicking a field goal at the end and just pulling his good old Mario Cristobal, not knowing what the hell to do late in games, the Hurricanes come away with the win. I think I'll go in order of how the game went, and then we'll talk about the late game stuff at the end, because there was a lot of cause for concern there. Usually I take a bunch of notes throughout the game. That wasn't exactly the case today, because there was a hell of a lot going on in terms of South Florida sports right now. Of course, you had the Miami Heat open up their preseason against the Magic in Puerto Rico, which ended up being a pretty good game. The Heat ended up losing. I didn't pay as much attention to that game. That was on the laptop. Hurricanes got the big TV. But actually, as soon as I'm done uploading this video, I'll put up the Heat post-game video. So if y'all want to check that out too, it should be up shortly after this video is uploaded. But I mean, even outside of that, you had the Panthers were playing preseason. I think they won like 8-0. You had the Inter Miami playing. I saw they did a nice big thing for Sergio Busquets, of course, retiring from MLS at the end of the season. And with everything going on right now in South Florida sports, you know there's no better time to go to a game, and you can do that by using the second sponsor of today's video, Game Time. The Miami Dolphins are in mid-season form. The Florida Panthers are hungry to repeat as champions again. The Miami Heat finally tip off with real basketball later this week, and the Miami Hurricanes look like a powerhouse with trenches that are must-see TV. But even better than watching on TV is to be a part of the action live and in person, and there's no better way to do that than with the sponsor of today's video, Game Time. In fact, I just used Game Time a couple weeks ago when I went to see the Miami Hurricanes dominate the Florida Gators, and I'm really glad that I went because the stadium was electric and finding my tickets was as easy as a Ruben Bain sack. And that's because Game Time has an extremely friendly user interface that allows you to see a panoramic preview of what your view will look like from your actual seats. And the price is always shown with fees included, so no more hidden costs popping up at the last second. So if you want to see some Heat preseason ball that's tipping off just later this week, or want to see Tyreek Hill one more time in person before the Dolphins inevitably trade him, make sure to download the Game Time app today or go to gametime.co and sign up using my promo code CLNS. That's promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It's as quick as a Gustav Forsling slap shot. Simply swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. A lot going on. I tried my best to keep up with everything on Twitter, but of course the timeline was being flooded. But regardless, the main focus tonight was the Miami Hurricanes, who from the jump, FSU got the ball. They went right down the field pretty much initially on their first drive. And the Canes were luckily enough able to stall them, held them to a field goal. So FSU went up 3-0 out the gate. And that's pretty much the last time they even came close to scoring until, I guess, late in the fourth quarter. So Miami did a good job defensively. It really looked like FSU pulled out all the stops on their first drive of the game to try to score, and all they got was 3 points. And then after that, Miami was pretty much rolling, even offensively. C.J. Daniels, I think, had the first touchdown of the game. Beautiful route by him. Just did a quick little hee-hee. Had the defender lost. Caught a nice pass from Beck in stride there. In the second quarter, FSU was being aggressive. There was a fourth down call. A lot of fourth downs went for it today by both teams. But for some reason, FSU went for it on 4th and 8. I don't know why. Who do you think you're playing, FSU? You're playing the Miami Hurricanes defense, man. Best in the nation. What are you doing going for 4th and 8, you bum? Tommy Castellanos had a lot of pressure on him. It was picked off by true freshman Bryce Fitzgerald, who ended up getting a really, really nice return. And speaking of true freshmen, it was the very next ensuing possession after getting a huge momentum-changing pick where another true freshman, Malachi Toney, had his first of multiple 40-yard touchdowns. 40-plus yard touchdowns. This was a beautiful play. They ran the ball. Mark Fletcher up the middle. Flea flicker back to Carson Beck, who just threw a dot to Malachi Toney. Bunch of air yards on that one. It was going to be a 43-yard touchdown for him. So nice play for the Hurricanes. I like when teams, they get a big turnover and go for the home run right after that, because those type of plays could be like almost daggers early in the game. You know, and FSU really did look defeated after that. Credit to them. They did end up bouncing back, obviously, and making it a game later. But when you do those kind of knockout punches, when you hit them, ooh, they feel good. Shout out to Malachi Toney, man. He was awesome tonight overall. We'll get into the stats in a little bit. But then it was after that drive where I'm hoping the Hurricanes can continue to build some momentum. The Canes would get a stop. But when they get the ball back, they would go 3 and outs. The punter would shank the punt. It was kind of a bad punt. And I'm thinking, all right, it would have been nice to build off that knockout punch. Instead, the Canes would go 3 and outs. But then they would force a fumble on the very first play again. Beautiful punch out by the Canes defender there. I forget who that specific one was. And then it was right after that where Malachi Toney had another like 40-yard plus touchdown. This time it was like a catch and run by him. That guy's insane. Is he still 17? Is the kid 17? I'd love to get a Malachi Toney jersey. I feel a little weird wearing a jersey of a kid. That's literally what he is. I mean, he's a kid in terms of years, but on the football field, that's a grown-ass man. My God, what a weapon he is. He really is fun to watch. But anyways, all that being said, that touchdown was called back because of an illegal motion by the Hurricanes. But I still wanted it to be noted because although that touchdown from Toney did not count, it has to be remembered because on the day, I think Toney did finish with 2 touchdowns then. Both of them were 40 yards plus, but that would have been three touchdowns, 40 plus yards. That would have been insane. But anyways, it was wiped away because of the bad penalty from the Hurricanes. A lot of bad penalties for the Hurricanes. I think in totality, what did it end up being? 13 penalties for, let me see if ESPN has that. It was for 100 plus yards. I know that for sure. Yeah. This says only 12 penalties for 98 yards. I think because the last one might have got declined or something. But regardless, they gave up nearly 100 yards in penalties, most of that being in the fourth quarter, which we can get into a little bit here because I don't have too much notes. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly how the game went because I was focusing on so much during the game. Of course, you had in the third quarter. That's when Malachi had his other 40-yard touchdown. It was on a 4th and 2. So balls moved by the Hurricanes today. Beautiful play on the 4th down there. And then Castellanos would throw another pick after that off some great pressure from Ruben Bain, who on the stat sheet didn't draw a sack, but my God, was Ruben Bain all over the field today. I actually saw that Bain in a couple mocks is projected to be the first overall pick in the draft, which would be crazy if back-to-back years the Canes had the first overall pick in the draft. Cam Ward and now Bain, that would be dope. It is sad to think that Bain was on the team last year and they couldn't even make the playoffs. But I know Bain was hurt and they have a completely revamped defense, new D coordinator and everything. So it would just be cool to see. Shout out to Ruben Bain. He's continuing another really strong year. And then CJ Daniels would get his second touchdown, I think, in the third quarter there as well. So, yeah, you had the 2 touchdowns for Daniels, the 2 touchdowns for Toney, and that's how Miami got their 28 points. But then you go into the fourth quarter, right? And from the jump, I don't like Miami's offensive execution there for quite a while now, for almost since he came here. I was not a fan of Mario Cristobal. The guy's an excellent recruiter. We know this. I don't like his in-game coaching, specifically late in games. And how many times have we seen this Hurricanes team in his tenure really collapse in the fourth quarter? We've already seen it a couple times this year. I don't want to say collapse, but they really let their foot off the pedal or the gas pedal and look a lot more sloppy. You can even go back to the last game versus the Gators, in which the Hurricanes really did dominate. But in that second half, they kind of let the Gators get into it a little bit before Miami ended up having a few cheap touchdowns late to put some icing on the pig there. Did I just mix 2 metaphors, the icing on the cake and lipstick on a pig? I think that's what I was trying to say. You know what I mean? Well, you dress it up a little bit, dress the score up a little bit, because the Gators game was a little bit closer than the score showed. And the FSU game, I guess, was a little bit of a bigger blowout, bigger disparity than the score showed. Although FSU was one onside kick away from winning the damn game, so I guess I shouldn't say that the game was really a blowout, but. Anyways, I don't know. From the jump in the fourth quarter, the Hurricanes were almost just trying to run out the clock. And to me, what's that, a 25-point game? So, I don't know, that's 25 is a lot. But with a whole quarter to go, it's too early to just be running out the clock. You don't do that type of thing until you got just a handful of minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then back to Cristobal, I guess, as I was saying, I'm not a Cristobal fan, and I've been giving him a lot of slack or flack, and I'm going to give him a lot this video. But I do understand it's not just him. You got Shannon Dawson and obviously the defensive coordinator as well. They didn't have their best outings, and I don't know exactly who is to blame for play calling and such. I don't know how they share the duties there. But I'm going to give it to Mario Cristobal, the flack, most of the flack, just because he has a history of doing this, whether it was at Miami or whether it was at Oregon, just losing big games, falling apart in the clutch and such. And I didn't like the execution from the start of the fourth quarter. Why are you trying to run out the clock so damn early? Play football. I feel like Cristobal is conservative when he doesn't need to be or when he shouldn't be, and then he's too crazy when he should be conservative. For example, again, in the first half today, just like he did in the first half versus the Gators, there was about 45 seconds left on the clock. Miami had 3 timeouts, and he kneeled on the ball. Did one run up the middle, then kneeled on the ball. Why? 45 seconds and 3 timeouts, you can get into field goal range. I don't care if the Hurricanes are up 11 or 12 at that point and they're playing well. Try to get a field goal. What are you afraid of? To me, that's too conservative coaching. That's, as my dad always said, and I couldn't agree with him more, he's coaching not to lose. And when you coach not to lose, a lot of times you lose. You have to coach to win. And then there's plays, so that's when he's too conservative at times. And obviously, as we've said a few times in the fourth quarter, just trying to run out the clock instead of actually running plays. But then there's times late in the game where you should be conservative, and he's not. We could go back to Georgia Tech a few years back where he should have kneeled on the damn ball. Didn't kneel on it. They ended up losing the game, after the Hurricanes fumbled. And then today, Hurricanes do a great job running the ball. They get a couple of first downs. FSU has no timeouts left. Okay, now you try to run the ball, run out the clock, kick a field goal. The Canes were up 9. They could have went up 12. Perfect, because 12-point game, a touchdown, 2-point conversion and field goal, that's 11. So FSU would have needed 2 touchdowns if Miami kicked the field goal. If Miami doesn't kick a field goal, it's a 9-point game. A field goal and a touchdown for FSU wins them the game. So when the Hurricanes had a chance with, a minute to go to kick a field goal, when it was 4th down to kick a field goal, actually, they had 2 4th downs. One of them was a 4th and 1. I wanted Cristobal to go for it because you get that first down. There's essentially no time left for FSU, basically no time left. So Miami would go for the 4th and 1. I like that they got the 4th and 1. Now you run the ball 3 times and kick a field goal. That's how the play set up. They ran the ball 3 times, and then I see Miami going to set up to run a play. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're trying to run offside or draw FSU off sides or whatever, and they'll call a timeout with a second to go, kick the field goal, go up 12, under a minute to go, whatever. You're in good shape. But then they snap the ball, and they throw a passing play for Carson Beck. Why? Because what ended up happening is the Canes didn't get the first down. It was actually a terrible pass by Carson Beck. And as much as I don't like the play call, Malachi Toney was wide the hell open. Oh, if that's a good pass by Beck, that would have been a first down, actually game over. But regardless, you should have never even been in that spot. You should have kicked the field goal because you went for 4th down. You didn't get it. FSU went all the way down the field, kicked the field goal, made it a 6-point game, and that's how you get in a spot where if they get the onside kick, all they need is a touchdown to win by 1. So very frustrating in terms of coaching in the fourth quarter and in terms of play calling, and obviously the entire game just in terms of penalties. There was a spot in the second half. Yeah, Miami's up 25 at this point. They're feeling good. They rush Castellanos out of bounds. And then the Hurricanes defender throws him to the ground 4 seconds after he's out of bounds. Why? Personal foul, 15 yards. You're just giving these free penalties to FSU to go down the field. Even on that final drive, Castellanos slid. Late hit on Miami, another 15 yards. Now, that one I actually think was a bad call. I think the Hurricanes guy barely touched him. But still, this just shows it's not just one play that I'm talking about. It's a pattern of a lot of penalties and undisciplined football. That's what it is. And as good as this Hurricanes offensive line is, still a lot of false starts. And that's Mario Cristobal's offensive line. They're just a bit of an undisciplined unit is how I look at it, regardless of all the talent that they have. And I think that kind of just falls back on coaching, in my opinion. But regardless, that's pretty much it for the negative. We'll run through the box score real quick here. Carson Beck, 20 of 27, 240 and 4 tutties. Oh, what a game. Although he did have several passes that weren't perfect, especially in that fourth quarter. Some drives kind of stalled. There was a couple that was a little bit short. But overall, this Hurricanes team has such nice weapons on both sides of the ball. They just need Carson Beck to be solid. And today, I think he was more than solid. If he can keep it up, I think this Hurricanes team can make some noise in the playoffs. Good performance from him. On the ground today, didn't actually run the ball too much. 32 carries today. So pretty even, I guess. Beck had 27 passes, and they ran the ball 32 times. But they did share, 12 runs for Fletcher, 41 yards. You had Chamar Brown, 8 carries for him, 19 yards. And Jordan Lau, they were really trying to churn his legs to end the game to really run out that clock. And I thought he was fine. 7 carries for him. But it was in the receiving game where your playmakers really stood out today. Malachi Toney, 107 yards, 7 catches, and 2 tutties. CJ Daniels, 78 yards for him and 2 touchdowns. So both of those guys were really fun to watch. And then, of course, on the defensive end today, you had Mesidor and Jacoby Thomas with a couple of sacks. And then Jacoby Thomas also had a pick, along with Bryce Fitzgerald had a pick as well. So overall, very good defensively today. Until the fourth quarter. And then on the FSU side of things, I just want to shout out Castellanos, man. I've been hearing a lot about him this season, and he's nice. I don't know if he's a super special NFL type quarterback or whatever, But he may, and I know his numbers don't stand out either. 25 of 45, 272, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The numbers aren't insane. But in that fourth quarter, he made some nice plays with his legs. He really did, man. The Hurricanes actually put them in several 4th and 5s, a bunch of 3rd and 10s, and they converted a lot of them. And most of those were because Castellano was using his legs either to get the first down or to roll out the pocket, find guys down the field. So I just want to give him credit. Give the rival a little bit credit. What are you going to do? Anyways, the Miami Hurricanes do improve to, what are they now, 4-0, 5-0, is it? 5-0, and they have a bye week going into next week. So kind of nice. Played a big rivalry game versus UF, had a bye week to prepare for FSU. Now you let the emotions get high. You have another bye week to kind of reset. Hopefully they can focus on fixing a lot of this penalty issues, within this bye week, because next week they do play Louisville, I believe, which is no pushover. I don't think any of the teams they have left is really a pushover. You can't take your foot off the gas pedal. I've seen the Hurricanes lose too many times to teams they should have beat, even though the Hurricanes will be favored to win pretty much every game the rest of the year. They play Pitt last game of the season. We've seen that movie before. Just continue taking care of business, Hurricanes, one game at a time, and just try to clean up a lot of this penalty issues, and they'll be fine. That being said, it would be a huge disappointment if the Hurricanes don't at least make the playoffs. Last year, you had Cam Ward, first pick in the draft, can't make the playoffs. I at least want to see him get that this year, especially when FanDuel has them at minus 1,600 to make the playoffs. Damn. You better make the playoffs if you're minus 1,600. That's all I got to say. But anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. How optimistic are you about the Miami Hurricanes? I'm very curious to hear what y'all think. Heat post game will be coming out in a little bit. Make sure to comment, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Appreciate y'all, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.